Hi, welcome to another video by Jim the Car Guy. Today we have a 2003 Ford Explorer. We're going to be changing the front and rear brake pads. I'm going to start on the rear brakes first. We're going to be changing the brake pads and the rotors because these rotors are non-serviceable. They're so badly rusted, there's really not much you can do with them except change them. So I'm going to show you how to do that step by step. Don't forget, subscribe to my channel. If you like what I'm doing, give me the thumbs up. After we complete the back brakes, we're going to move up to the front and we're going to get the front brakes done also. And the last thing we're going to do on this particular one is the ABS light is on. After I scanned it, they come up with ABS sensor right rear and left rear, no input. The sensor on this particular vehicle for the ABS is mounted up on the differential. So we're going to need to get up there and test that sensor. And if the sensor's bad, we're going to go ahead and replace it. Now, I did look underneath there, and the sensor's in a really rough spot. So I don't think I'm going to be able to test it up inside the vehicle, so I'm most likely going to have to pull that sensor out, and then I'll test the sensor, and if it's bad, then we'll replace it with a new one. Let me just show you where that sensor is located. But first, we're going to get these brakes done, and then we'll get in there, and we're going to take care of that sensor in the back there. So let me bring you over, show you what I'm going to do, and let's get started. Okay, what we're going to do first before we do anything is we're going to check to make sure that this caliper slides the way it's supposed to be. These pieces here are called slide pins, and the caliper needs to slide back and forth on them so that when you apply the brake, it squeezes it tighter, and when you let go, it actually doesn't keep the brakes applied. It lets them slide back out just so it's not constant drag on them. All right, so let me show you how we're going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to get in there with a tool like this to just pry the brake pad all the way in. You just put it through there like that, and you just keep constant pressure on it, and it pulls the brake, pushes the brake caliper piston all the way back in. And now when it pushes the caliper back in, you can check to make sure these slide pins are okay. Good slide pins are supposed to slide like they say, back and forth like this. All right, so they slide really well. They are going to need to be lubricated, which we'll do during the brake replacement. So what we need to do now is take out that 10mm screw here and here, and then we're going to take this caliper and slide it off to the side, and we're going to remove the rotor. But now we know that the slide pins here are working properly. So let's grab some tools. You're going to need some basic hand tools, not really a lot. You're going to need a set of sockets. You're going to need a ratchet. You're going to need some brake caliper grease, specifically made for the brake calipers. Don't use anything but you have to use the brake caliper grease. We're going to use a hanger to hang the caliper up and out of the way so that it doesn't just dangle by the brake hose itself. All right, let's get started, and we'll walk you through this. Once we get this off, I'll show you what we're going to do underneath here. So the screws in the back of the caliper, there are 10mm, so we're just going to break them loose. And then we're going to take these out. Most of the time, once you break them loose by hand, you can take them right out with your hands without having to use the ratchet. All right, make sure both bolts are the same size, which they are, because we don't want to mix them up. One is longer than the other. Next thing we're going to do is we're just going to take this caliper and take it off. It sticks a little bit because the brake pads themselves are very rusty and they don't slide that well. So I'll show you what we're going to do with that. Then you take your hanger, you put your hanger on here and just locate it up to the side. And then we're going to pull these rotors off the car. If they don't come off, which this one does come right off, but if they don't come off, you can get in here with a hammer and just hammer them right off. All right, now usually you'll clean this up here, and the way I'm going to clean it up before we put that new rotor on is we're going to grind this down right inside here so that it's a nice clean surface with a new rotor to connect onto. Okay, now I just want to show you this. This is additional work that's going to be needed to be performed. Didn't realize it until we pulled this rotor off. But as you can see, the parking brake shoes are gone. And when you look down here, here they are. They actually separated and they're laying inside the back of the rotor. So we're going to need to replace these shoes in the back here. It's a little bit difficult, but you'll be able to get through it. It's basically what we're going to do is we're going to get in here with a pair of needle nose pliers. We're going to grab this spring, pull it, and take it off. Then we're going to go down on the bottom to this other spring underneath here and do the exact same thing and release these clips and take the springs out. Sounds easy, but it's anybody who's in the business knows this is a pain in the rear end. So, all right, let's grab some tools and let's get started on it. We're going to get in there with a pair of needle nose pliers and we're going to grab that spring and we're going to lock these pliers on pretty tightly so we can pull it off. Okay, I'll take that off. And then we just have to take it out of the other shoe. And that's the spring. Basically what you did was you get in here with a pair of pliers like that, and we pulled it and took this out of there. So let's put this on the side for now, and we're going to do the exact same thing down on the bottom. Underneath here, grab that spring. Just pull the spring up and out, and then we'll take this out. Put this on the side too. Next thing we're going to do is we need to release these pins right here. And the way you do that is I usually get in here with a very large screwdriver, push it in and push up on that pin. And you'll see it comes right out. And we'll take this off. And our shoe is going to come out. Don't lose your adjuster. Comes out like this. And we're going to make sure that this adjuster is free. We're going to take it over to the bench and we're going to lubricate it and get it to turn freely. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take that other pin out here. Same thing, just push up on it, push the pin up, and you can release it. And you take the shoe right out like that. Now, I'm going to tell you, it looks easy when I did it, but believe me, I know you're going to have a problem. It is a pain in the rear end to do it. Take your time, don't get frustrated, and you'll be able to get it done. All right, let's get some grease. We're going to lubricate the points where the brake pads the shoes are going to touch, and we're going to free up that adjuster. In this case, we are going to reuse the old hardware because the customer wants to try to keep the expenses down. So let me free everything up, and then we'll come right back. I'll get the shoes, and we'll get this back together. Okay. Now, before you do anything, always match up your brake shoes to make sure they're the correct ones. You hate to get it on the car and find out they're wrong. All right, make sure they're the same width. Make sure that everything lines up exactly as they're supposed to, which it does. All right, then what we're going to do is we're going to, what I talked about, you have to lubricate everything that the brake pad itself or shoe is going to come in contact with. Put a little bit of grease all around so that everything slides nice and freely the way it's supposed to. All right, now we're going to install our brake shoe back on the car. Now, your pin is kind of in a really tough spot down the bottom here. hard to get your hand in through the back, so you're going to have to try to do the best you can. Try to get your fingers inside there and hold it. We're just going to keep this down like this for now. We're going to put this piece back on the way it came off. And now we're just going to slide it on like this, and then we're going to put our hand around the back. Get in there. Push this, I'll show you real quick. I hold it in the back, hold the pin from the back with your finger. You put this on there like that, push this clip down, and you push it up. I'm going to show you better up on top here so you have a better idea. I'm just going to slide the shoe into position where it belongs here. And then we're going to restore our other shoe on there also. Alright, just lay the brake pad in over the top of that pin right there. You got to hold your hand in through the back. Put this over the pin. I'm sorry, I'm going to block your view here. Your finger goes in the back to hold that pin like that. Put this over like this. And now we're going to get this pin. We're going to put this holder. And now we're just going to put it over the top. We're not going to do any pushing yet. All right. Then you're going to put your finger in through the back and hold it. And then you push this down. I'm going to need a screwdriver to push this down. You want to make sure that that piece slid back into where it belongs. So we just put our shoe back in where it belongs into the top here. Okay. See? It's caught just the way it came off. That's the way it's back on there right now, see? It is rough to get your hand in there, but just take your time and you'll be good. All right, we make sure our shoes are back up here where they belong. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put our star in over here, and we're going to put that spring back in and stretch it. Put our spring in here, and then we're going to stretch that spring and put it back in where it belongs, right here. Now you notice I don't have my star adjuster in there yet. I left that out for a reason, and the reason is it's easier to do it now to leave it out, put the shoes on, and then we're going to reinstall. The star. Okay, put it on like this. Push it into position there, and then just pull the shoes back a little bit and push it into where it belongs. That's it. Now the star is back in. I'll take you down there. I'll show you. See, the star is back into position, and the spring is back where it belongs. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to come up top, and we're going to put that remaining spring back in there. Put a spring in through here. Hook it on the back shoe. back shoe. And now we're going to pull it, and we're going to connect it back up on this other shoe here. All right, once you have it clipped in, let me show you what it looks like. All right, you got your brake spring back in the shoe where it belongs in there. And you have it down in the front over here where it belongs in there. All right, we have our adjuster inside. The spring is on. The two clips are in place that we previously installed. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the rotor on there, and then we're going to adjust the parking brake before we put the brake pads back on. So let's grab that rotor and continue. Okay, and once you got it all together, then you can put your rotor over the top of your shoes, and we're going to adjust the parking brake just to make sure that everything is set before we put the caliper over the top of it. Okay. All right, once you have the rotor on, you're going to see if it needs to be adjusted, which it does. We're going to adjust the parking brake before we put it back together. And the way you do that is you do it with that star adjuster down the bottom that we previously took out. And you lubricate it. You just turn it, just a couple of turns. You turn it with a screwdriver. That noise that you hear is actually the spring touching up against that star adjuster, the wheel. That's a normal sound. Right. Okay, now I can feel a slight drag on it. So that's good. All right, so that's all set. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to start putting the brakes back together, and then we'll wrap this up. Then we're going to go to the other side and do the exact same thing with the parking brakes on the other side. Okay. Now before you put your brake rotor back on here, you have to take these clips off. We're going to change the hardware in here. You just take these clips and bang them down and out. I'm going to throw these away. We're going to put new hardware on here because the brake shoes have to slide freely. All right? Now, if you take it apart and you find out that there is a significant amount of rust on here, you can get in here with a file and clean the rust this way and this way, just to make sure that the new clips fit on there just the way they're supposed to. This is a little bit rusty, so I'm just going to clean it up a little bit. Same thing on the top here. You don't really want to do a lot of sanding, you just want to get the rust off. You don't want to sand away the metal, just the rust. All right? Next thing we're going to do now is we're going to take our new hardware kit, they go on here. It goes over the top like this, and you just push them down, right into position like this. Same thing here. And you can tap it up just slightly. Same thing here. All right. Now that we have this on, we're going to just lubricate it just a little bit before we put the rotor on. Just like this. Here. Front and back. Same thing on top. Any way that the brake pad touches, you want to lubricate. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to install our rotor. Make sure it's on all the way. Then we're going to take our caliper that we previously relocated to the side, and we're going to do a little bit of stuff on here too. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take these brake pads out because we don't need them any longer. Just push the pad this way, and you get it out like that. All right. The reason you pushed it is because there's a little tab right here that you need to release from there. All right, so we'll take that out. We're going to take this one out also. Don't throw them away yet. We're going to need to do one other thing with these, but I just want to show you this first. Remember we talked about these slide pins? Push these slide pins, I hope you can see that. Push these slide pins back and out through the back. Take them out like that, and then we're going to lubricate these with that special brake grease that we have. Anything like this you put on will make it slide a lot easier. I always put a significant amount on because, especially with these vehicles that sit a lot, they rust up considerably. All right, we'll put our slide pin back through here. Make sure you slide it back through and make sure the rubber boot goes back to its position. Can you see how freely everything moves now? Versus this one here that's a little tighter. All right, we'll push that out. Take it out. Again, lubricate everything. Everything that touches like this. I always put a little bit inside here also, because when you push it through the seal, sometimes some of the grease comes off. All right, and we're going to put it back. Hope you can see. Like this. Push it through. Make sure it snaps back in the way it's supposed to. The rubber boot, I mean. Now, what we're going to do, the brake shoe itself. Let me just show you this real quick. If you look at the shoe, you have an inner shoe and you have an outer shoe. And the difference with them is that if you look at this one here, you see this has that notch right there. Let me show you how. Okay, see the difference? See how this one is flat on the top and this has that little like horseshoe thing here? You have to make sure you put the correct shoe in the right location. And this is going to go in this way and then slide down. So we're going to put that pad, that brake pad, into the caliper where it belongs. What I find it's easier when you put it into the caliper is just lubricate this just a little bit like that. And then you just take it and put it into the caliper. And just push it in there. And it snaps all the way in. And we're going to take our second pad. Remember, we had the outer pad now. We need to do the same thing. You see this is the outer pad. You see how this has the horseshoe there? And this one does not. This is not the right one. This one is the correct one. See? And you have to make sure that these are the same, inner and outer. Make sure of that, otherwise you're not going to get that caliper back on to where it belongs. This one you put over the top like this here, and you just push it down until you feel it snap into those little pins underneath there. Right? Next thing we're going to do, we're going to make sure that that piston is pushed all the way back in. So we're going to put our tool inside here, and we're going to push the piston back in on the caliper. Lots of different tools they have out there. This one here I've had for a long time, so I've just gotten very used to it. But you can use any tool that you have that you could recess the piston. Okay? Now that the piston is pushed all the way back into the bore as far as it can go, you can take your tool back off. Then you take your caliper. Now remember, you have the horseshoe up on top here and here. So you need to hook it on the top first. On the top first. Pushing those slide pins out of the way because they're interfering. like this, push it up, and then this, make sure your slide pins are out of the way because it will bind up and cause the caliper not to push in. Push the pins back, the slide pins a little bit. After you have it in place, catch your two 10mm bolts that you previously took out, screw them in, screw them as far as you can by hand. Same thing on this one. And then you tighten these bolts up all the way. Just snug them. Same thing on this one here. And that's it. This side's all done. All right? Let me show you a couple of things that you need to check. All right? Make sure that everything is in where it belongs, right here. They're in the horseshoe here, as well as here. And underneath here. These bolts here are tight, nice and tight here, nice and tight there. It's on here. That's it. We're all set. All right? Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go around to the other side, and we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side, and then we're going to wrap this job up and get it out the door. All right? Thanks for watching. Any questions, any comments, drop me a line. Be more than happy to talk to you about anything. And as always, see you on the next one.